So I'm going to go over something that's fairly common and yet kind of rare. So most growers during their career of growing giant pumpkins will come across this in one form or another. So as you can see, we have a plant here and a plant here. Now you would think this is a healthier plant, but it's actually not. It's got extra growth on it, and I'll show you what I mean. So first, let's look at a healthy plant, or a plant that is growing regular. So the nodes should be alternating. So if you look, you have the first true leaf, the second true leaf right here, the third true leaf, and then the growth tip. And then it'll have some buds in between those nodes where the secondaries or whatnot will come out. This one here, if you look, back there is the first true leaf, and then it threw a second true leaf on two sides, and then it threw a third true leaf on both sides with all this little mess here. So it's got way too many nodes. Now, it's not necessarily a game ender if you have a growth tip, which it looks like this one's getting right here. You can see it right there, right where I'm pointing. But it's not ideal. And from talking to other growers and my own experience, it typically can throw more double vines later in the season or have other issues. So usually what we do at this point is we would cut it and kill it. I'm going to show you, if you had no other choice, say it was a seed you really want to grow, you want to carry on genetics, whatever it might be, how to treat for it or how to try and snap it out of it. But I highly suggest not doing this. You're probably putting yourself in, a heartache later on, and to be honest, you don't want to carry those genetics over. So unless you're a new grower or you're really heart set on it, or it's a rare seed, I would probably just go ahead and cut it and get rid of it and replace it with a backup. I'm actually going to replace this with a backup. I'll probably dig this plant out and put a backup in here, but I'm going to show you what I do. So first off, what you want to do is you want to establish where the growth tip is, if it has one. If it doesn't have one, it's a lost cause. This one does have one. It's right there. And you want to work your way from the growth tip back instead of starting to whack all the bigger leaves first. That way you can kind of get the alternation from the leaves going the right way. So by looking at this one, it's probably hard to see from that side, so we'll switch it around. So here's your growth tip. Now this one would impede it, right? So I'm going to cut that one. So before I get back to what I was doing cutting that, I want to show you I do sterilize my knives between plants. So anytime you're working on a plant or cutting into a plant, you want to sterilize your blades, okay? Make sure they're sharp and make sure they're sterile. So back to this. So I got my growth tip and the leaf on the opposite side, and I cut right here because this one would impede with the alteration or alternation of the leaves, okay? So this is on the opposite side. So now what I want to do is, I see some extra growth here. See that? Get rid of that. And down in here, there's extra growth. That one I could just pretty much pick off. And then this is a secondary coming out on this side. Get rid of that. Now there's another growth here, but I would probably let that be instead of digging out in this plant and scarring up and cutting off leaves and all that. I'll let it grow out and it'll make it easier to cut a little bit later. Probably just a couple inches though, just so it's easier to cut. But that's what you're looking for, is alternation of the leaves. Now I've got two here. They're in the same junction. You see this one goes up and this one goes up. If one of those was impeding the lay down, or if one of those was impeding how the vine was going to grow, I would cut one off. Whatever one looked more deformed or whatnot, or wasn't growing as well, I would do it. It's not doing anything, and they're going away from it. And the plant's actually supposed to grow this way. It's just kind of leaned back that way. I would start coaching it back the right direction. Another thing is, as you can see, it's a lot thicker right here. That's the start of a double vine, and you can see where it's actually trying to split right there. So that's another telltale sign that there's a double vine going on in there. So when you get stuff like that going on, it opens you up for disease and a bunch of other issues. So that's why I'm gonna kind of get rid of this plant. I may dig it out and put it like in the corner of the patch just so you can kind of see how it does, but I hate to disturb the area around this root zone. The only reason I'm going to try and dig it out is because I don't think that one's really gone into this one's area yet. So I'm going to probably do more harm to this one and then stay away from anything that could potentially be coming from that one. If you have any questions on double vines or ribbon vines more of a flat style, and double vine, it's very obvious side-by-side vine that's going on. And that's what I believe this one is. It's a double vine. Now I would also cut this front leaf, because this would also help it to grow in the right direction, and just being careful not to cut the growth tip. And I put my thumb on the opposite side so it kind of keeps it from hitting that main vine there. See that? So now I've got two opposing ones, and then your first true leaf. The funny thing is more than likely somewhere along the line, even if this was a keeper or something, all three of these leaves would be gone fairly soon after it laid down, just because of where they would sit on the stump. So it's not real important, but this is pretty much the only thing you can do is add water. A lot of people will add nitrogen and things like that. All you're trying to do is get growth out of it, but usually if you add water and keep it well watered, not sogging wet or anything, but as long as the growth's good and you can get the grow out of it. If you have any questions on that, let me know. So this is the 1883 Bayuk. This is the State Fair pumpkin on the east side of the patch here. This is the far end, and it's already starting to lay down. But you can see this leaf right here that's lower. It's blocking the main vine. You can see the vine tip right here. It's blocking it from being able to start to lay down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off that kickstand leaf. That's what it's called, the one that lays on the bottom side there. Cut that off, and then I'll put 2 skewers on either side of that, just to support it so it can't rock back and forth. Okay, I got it all pinned down there. You can see it can't rock. None of that's really pressing on hard. It's more or less just holding it and guiding it. Cut off the kickstand leaf, and then I also pinched off the secondary that would have come off that junction. just because you don't want that to regrow back and have to cut it off when it's bigger. It's just easier to pitch off when it's small. And just as a reminder, anytime you're cutting on a plant, before cutting, clean your utensil with isopropyl alcohol, and anytime you switch between plants, you should re-clean it. Okay, the next thing I do is, as you can see, in every node right there, in every junction, there's where a secondary would pop out. Now I don't have any secondaries to come off the back of my main, the stump area here, or that first node there, and sometimes even the third, so we'll have to see how it grows before I decide. But this one here and this one here, there's no point of letting them grow because it's just going to be wasted energy, so I go ahead and cut them off. Alright, so just as a recap, you have the stump that comes out of the ground. It's growing this way. It's going to grow in that direction from left to right. You have your main growing vine right here that's starting to take off. We took off the kickstand leaf, which will prevent it from laying down. We've pinned it, and then we've taken off secondaries that could potentially come at the different nodes. Now I'm going to leave the cotyledon leaves on, the cot leaves, for now. When I start to see them wrinkle or turn yellow, that means that they're starting to use up all their energy. But for right now, they're still helping the plant, they're still assisting it, so I'm going to leave those. Eventually we want to get rid of those. Reason being is they could get disease, rot issues. They could hide insects and bugs under there, and so we like to keep this area as clear as possible. I also use Captain powder. It's a fungicide on any wounds. I usually put that on. I don't have any right now, but I'll be picking some up. But I usually put that on all the wounds. These are very small wounds, so they should seal up pretty quick. But I'll probably in another day make sure that I just pat a little bit of Captain powder on there. So people ask me to talk about these vents, where I got them from, and things like that, and also about the hoop houses. These vents I got from Tractor Supply. I just ordered them offline through the website. I will let you know that they are absolute trash. They're garbage. They don't open as wide as they're supposed to at certain temperatures. The hoop house right now, it's kind of hard to see. It's in the 90s, but the vent itself is not barely cracked, so it's terrible. I would not recommend it. I've been venting them through the zipper on the hoop house. This hoop house, I believe it was like 65 bucks on Amazon. Pretty decent quality. I would say it's a 1 to 2 season hoop house as far as plastic goes. Zipper's not too bad. It works for the price. I'll probably save the frames and try and do something with them in the future. But I do like my bigger PVC hoop. It's just easier to vent. It's cheap. It's easy to put up. I can save the hoops. I got 6 mil plastic from Home Depot, and I've used it for 2 seasons, and I'll probably be able to get a third out of it as long as I store it properly. So that's probably the route I'll go and continue to go in the future. Another thing to think about is it was hard for me to lean over and do different things through that way, and you have to rebar this into the ground to kind of secure it to wind and issues. So having to lean through that window and do everything, it's not fun. So especially when I was putting them in the ground. I do have a shade cloth, before you ask that. Amazon again. I think it's a 30%. That one there is like 7 seasons old. I had that for a long time. So just track it down. They have them in different colors. I like to use tan just because it's a little bit cooler, but you can get them in different colors: black, green, and I believe tan. Any other questions, feel free to reach out. Let me know. Kitty litter is my secret ingredient. Just kidding. Just use the jug to heat up warm water and leave it in there at nighttime. If you see anything else, just let me know. 1883 Bayuk, west end of the patch. 2376 Bayuk, west end of the patch. 2376 Bayuk, center east side of the patch. 1883 Bayuk, east side of the patch.